What do you know? Another coronavirus panic pusher got caught red-handed. We also have a gigantic stimulus bill, maybe you've heard about it, and AG BARR letting me down. All that's coming up right now on I'm Right. I'm a parent. I know that's a frightening thought that there may be two more of me coming up in this world. Trust me, I'm going to try to make sure they're actually decent people. But I'm a parent. I have two sons, and I want you to imagine this scenario. We have a road out in front of our house, like so many other people do. And I tell my sons, as so many parents do, as you probably have if you have kids, don't play in the road. Stay out of the road. Don't play in the road. I'm very forceful about how I say that to my sons. If you play in the road, you're going to die. You know, it'll feel like to have a car drive over your legs. It'll hurt really bad. I mean, I really give it to them. I'm trying to make sure they get it, right? I'm giving it to them all the time. Watch what you're doing. Pay attention. Don't be an idiot. Look both ways. Don't play in the road. Don't play in the road. Don't play in the road. Time and time and time and time again. But I want you to picture this. I want you to picture if that's what I told my sons. They're 10 and 12 now, so obviously they know. But that's what I've told my sons their whole lives. Don't play in the road. And yet every single night, come home from the studio, finish this, grab my baseball glove and a baseball, and I walk right out into the middle of the road. I just stand there and just start throwing the ball up in the air and just catching it. Just throwing the ball up in the air and catching it. Hours at a time, standing in the middle of the road. What do you think my sons would think? Do you think my words of don't play in the road would have been effective? Or do you think they would use their little minds and say, well, obviously playing in the road is safe. Dad does it all the time. We're always showing people, our kids, friends, wives, family, whatever the case may be, people we're in charge of, people who are in charge of us. We are constantly showing the world around us what we believe by our actions. You know, Dr. BIRX has been the face of this coronavirus pandemic. Her and Dr. Fauci, you remember them, the Twin Towers, since March and April. Press conference every single day, 8 million news conferences, so we're going to have 90 million dead Americans. The country itself may cease to exist. Oh my gosh, go home. We're all going to die. We're going to die. Wear a face mask. Hide under your bed. Make sure you live in a bubble. Oh my, don't open your restaurant. My word. Oh, Black Lives Matter rally. That's okay. You know, so on and so forth. It's been this for months. It's been this for feels like forever, right? Dr. BIRX, don't do this, don't do that. You remember what she said recently? Oh, she said a couple things recently. Pay close attention.
We know people may have made mistakes over the Thanksgiving time period. So if you're young and you gathered, you need to be tested about 5 to 10 days later, but you need to assume that you're infected and not go near your grandparents and aunts and others without a mask. We're really asking families to even mask indoors if they chose to gather during Thanksgiving and others went across the country or even into the next state.
You need to assume you're infected. Wear a mask. If you look, even indoors, wear a mask. You know what? Wear a mask in the shower. Just keep changing it as it gets wet. Just mask until the end of it. It's important. Assume you were infected. Just naturally assume it. You're a biological weapon. Oh, it wasn't just one time either.
If Rhode Islanders then over Thanksgiving gathered together, took their mask off indoors, they spread the virus. And so really, if you want to have your cases go down, if you want to save your hospitals, if you want to ensure that Rhode Islanders live to get vaccinated, we all together need to change our behaviors. And it won't help if we can continue to gather indoors in our homes and defy these critical decreased gathering messages.
We're all in this together. Didn't you hear what she said? We're all in this together. We can't continue to gather in our homes. We're going to overwhelm the hospitals. You need to listen to the messages about the gathering. We're in this together. You, me, Dr. BIRX, we're like this, right? We're all going through the same stuff, aren't we? We are, right? Story came out today. Dr. BIRX traveled over Thanksgiving and hung out inside in one of her vacation homes with 3 generations of her family. You know what it should tell you? I know you're probably steaming mad right now, maybe through something at the TV. It shouldn't, the message you need to take away from that is not that Dr. BIRX is a hypocrite. She is, but we all are to some extent. We try not to be, I would hope. Even as terrible as I am, I try not to be, I fail. But what it should tell you is this. You ready for this? This is going to become a shock. I want you to remember all the news conferences, all the interviews, all the questions from the press, millions of people are going to die. You ready for this hard truth? Dr. BIRX isn't worried about coronavirus at all. She's not. She's not worried about getting it. Not worried about the other family members of hers getting it. She's not worried about them spreading it. How do I know? Well, she just showed me. She just showed me. She just went and played in the road. You can tell me all day long about the dangers of playing in the road, don't play in the road, but then don't go play in the road and assume I'm going to think it's dangerous. Dr. BIRX is not worried about coronavirus at all. Think about that. Now think about how sick that is when you go all the way back to March, when all this 15 days to slow the spread crap began. How many times did you see her pushing panic on the TV? Still on the TV, you saw her. You saw her with the mask on, big old mask on her face. Lady sitting all by herself in a television studio. Closest person's probably the cameraman sitting 20 feet away, sitting there with the mask on her face. Surprised she doesn't have a shield too and rubber gloves. It's all performance art. None of these people believe it. Because I know we struggle for something that unites us, and there's not much that unites us now, the left and the right in America. Here's something that unites everybody. You ready for it? Left, right, Republican, Democrat, up, down, Libertarian, Communist, all of them. All of them. You know what unites everybody? They don't want to die. People don't want to die. We kind of have an aversion to that sort of thing. If Dr. BIRX was worried about dying, she wouldn't have gathered with her family. That's because she's not worried about dying. As I've said 1,000 times over, stop telling me what you believe. Show me what you believe. They're constantly showing you what you believe. We're going to get to this stimulus bill here in just a second. You know what? Let's do that right now. Talk about showing us what we believe, what they believe. You ready for this? Here's Mitch McConnell.
More help is on the way. Moments ago, in consultation with our committees, the 4 leaders of the Senate and the House finalized an agreement. There will be another major rescue package for the American people. As our citizens continue battling this coronavirus this holiday season, they will not be fighting alone. We've agreed to a package of nearly $900 billion. It is packed with targeted policies that help struggling Americans who've already waited entirely too long.
We're all in this together, right? You know how much you're going to get from that? $600. $600. Those are the individual payments they're sending out, and there are limits on it, $75,000 or $99,000, depending on what you made back in 2019. But $600. That's what you're going to get. $600. There's money in there for small business loans, a little over $200 million in small business loans. They even threw money in there for the entertainment industry. I'm not making that up. And you're going to look at this bill and you're going to find out over the coming days because nobody's ready yet. There's a video out there. I should have played it for you. There's a video out there of some guy walking over in Capitol Hill with one of those big crates like you get at Home Depot when you're piling up on a bunch of stuff. One of the gigantic metal ones because it's too heavy. There's a video of a guy walking through Capitol Hill pushing the bill that way. It's just stacks and stacks and stacks of paper. So nobody's read it. Don't listen to them. No, not a single person has read this thing yet. They're going to pass it without reading it. And then in the coming days, here's what will happen. Like 5 of us will be mad about the spending. Like all of us will be mad about the $600 per person. And then we'll spend the next 2 weeks as people comb through the bill, finding out all the terrible things that are in it. And I'll bring them to you on the show. As I find them, I'll bring them to you. But by then, everyone will have already moved on. And they're going to move on to something else. And I have more bad news for you as long as we're going down the bad news train to open up tonight's show. You ready for this? This isn't close to the last coronavirus stimulus bill they're going to pass. They're going to keep doing this. They're going to keep passing them. They are. These people, all of them, the panic porn doctors, the Democrats, 75% of the Republicans, teachers, the government educators, Hollywood, federal bureaucracy, all these guys, all the governors, mayors, these guys, they love coronavirus. They love it. They love it. You have half the United States of America scared to death they're going to walk out the door if they don't walk out without a mask on and everything else. And you have the other half of the country desperately trying to keep their business alive, desperately trying to keep their jobs back, just trying to pay their bills. Well, what do you have there? That's half and half. That gives you 100% of the country scared and worried about something. And if you're a politician who loves power, and all politicians love power, what could be better for you than that? They're going to keep passing these things. You'll get one about every 4, 5, 6 months. Now, granted, you'll get a few, 10 or 12 Republicans will stand up and be all, this is not a good idea. We can't keep doing this. And they'll quickly be shouted down as monsters, grandma killers, people who don't care about the coronavirus, loss of life, people who don't care about small business. And around and around and around we go. But I want you to remember something. And I don't want you to remember it so you can hold people to account for what they've already done, because nobody ever gets held to account for what they've done. I want you to remember this for the future, because you are going to run into this again. Are you ready? The next time the government stands up and tells you to be scared to death of something, and then the news tells you to be scared to death of something, and then corporations, and then education. The next time the system joins together, as it always does, and tells you to be scared of something, you need to dig in, be tough in the very beginning and say, no, I don't think that's a good idea. Everybody slow down, calm down, and let's think this over. We lost all these battles way back in March, when government told everybody, go home, 15 days, slow the spread. I'm ordering you to. And so much of the country went, okay, let me know when I can come out again. That is not the American spirit, and we had better get the real American spirit back, or these people are never going to stop abusing us. But hey, enjoy that $600. I'm sure that covers the mortgage. All that may have made you uncomfortable, but I'm right. Now, natural medicines, holistic healing approaches. These are not new things. You get that, right? I mean, we talk about natural medicines now as if it's some new hippy-dippy thing. That's the stuff with all the history behind it. That's the stuff mankind has been using since God made us. Doctors Trusted CBD Company, they did something for me. Not only do they know about natural medicine, they went and researched the entire CBD industry. That's why they teamed up with people like BEST Organics. They only sell the best at doctorstrustedcbd.com. Go there now. doctorstrustedcbd.com. Use the promo code Jesse. That gets you 5% off and a free lip balm through the holidays. We'll be back. Let me ask you something. Have you ever had a moment in your life where you believed in something? You believed in it all the way. I'm not talking about your religious beliefs, that's your business, but where you believed in something all the way, and you had a moment where you looked around and thought to yourself, I think I've gotten weird about this. I used to do this with my football teams. I was a younger man, but old enough to know better, in my 20s. And I would get so into these games that my college football team or my pro football team was playing. And I would find if they lost, I'd be in a terrible mood for hours. If they won, I'd be elated. And I just had this moment, and I'm not ripping on you for loving your team. I still love my teams. But I had this moment, this clarifying moment of loving this team has turned me into a bad person for extended periods of time. I'm weirded out by myself. A grown adult should not have his emotional stability affected by the performance of a bunch of people who don't know he exists. You just shouldn't. It's not healthy. And I had this clarifying moment. I'll never forget it. I read the things people write and say about coronavirus and lockdowns and things like that. And I genuinely wonder, because I don't believe it's all malicious. Some of it, sure. I genuinely wonder if they've ever had a moment or if they're going to have a moment where they look around and think, I'm kind of creepy now. Listen to these two tweets from Andrew Yang. Quote, is there a way for someone to easily show that they have been vaccinated? Like a barcode they can download on their phone? There ought to be. Tough to have mass gatherings like concerts or ball games without either mass adoption of the vaccine or a means of signaling. Now, the amazing thing is, that's probably not a person who's had that moment yet, and maybe he never will, but imagine this. Imagine thinking to yourself, we need to get everybody marked in some way who's had the vaccine. That way we can scan them and allow them in with other people. Imagine thinking in that way and thinking to yourself, I'm the good guy here. That's where we are. That's where we are. Hunter Biden, Joe Biden. Let me clarify something here briefly. This story is not important to Rust Belt swing voters if it only stays on Hunter Biden. It's not. If this goes to Joe Biden, which there's already a mountain of evidence it does, then it is important. But if this stays with Hunter Biden, it's good campaign fodder for the right. I don't think it moves voters in the middle at all. That said, Joe Biden's refusal to answer any questions on it, getting a little creepy, and that's the good news.
He will not be discussing an investigation of his son with any attorney general candidates. He will not be discussing it with anyone he is considering for the role, and he will not be discussing it with a future attorney general. It will be up to the purview of a future attorney general in his administration to determine how to handle any investigation. As you know, U.S. attorneys are, that's a personnel decision. We're far from there at this point in the process, given we haven't announced yet an attorney general, a commerce secretary, a labor secretary, an education secretary. We have a few more to go, but we're going to allow the process to work how it should, which is for a Justice Department to be run independently by the Attorney General at the top.
Yeah. You believe that? You're not going to worry about it. Believe me, Joe Biden's not going to ask his Attorney General whether he's going to get involved in the felony investigation of his son. Come on, who believes that? But AG Barr got up today, gave a little press conference, and he had this to say, and I want you to listen. I want you to listen closely. I'm not telling you to hate Barr. I'm not telling you to love Barr, but we're going to have just a brief chat when he's done here.
Off topic, do you believe there should be a special counsel appointed to investigate the allegations against Hunter Biden?
I think to the extent that there's an investigation, I think that it's being handled responsibly and professionally currently within the department, and to this point, I have not seen a reason to appoint a special counsel, and I have no plan to do so before I leave.
Yeah. I don't know who I believe more. I don't know if I believe Biden when he says he's not going to ask his AG about Hunter Biden, or Barr when he says there's no reason to think the investigation's being politicized, going poorly. Was AG Barr watching the past 4 years? We still have investigations going on into the malfeasance we already know about of the CIA, FBI, DOJ, FISA warrants that shouldn't have been issued. It's time to stop with these pie-in-the-sky notions about the way we want life to be and accept life the way it is. The way it is this. Our federal bureaucracies, including the FBI, have been infected at the highest levels with Democrat operatives who will do the bidding of Democrats and actively work against Republicans. And if Republicans can't just simply acknowledge that and act on that, we are finished. As long as we come up with this complete fairy tale land idea, the FBI, they're nonpartisan. Brother, have you been watching? Of course they're not nonpartisan. And what do you think Joe Biden's going to do the second he gets in there? Of course he's going to put in an AG who's going to drop the whole thing like a hot potato. Oh, he won't do it right away. They'll do an extensive investigation at the end of which they'll find a couple little minor things and he'll get a little slap on the wrist and we'll call it a day. How can people not see this? I'm an idiot and I see this as clear as day. How can they not see this? Plus there's something else. Democrats just torpedoed the first 2 years of Trump's presidency with a special counsel. turned out to all be for naught. And I want you to remember this. Robert Mueller, he knew there was no Russian collusion before the midterm elections and chose to keep it silent until after, where the Democrats took back the House of Representatives. That's what they're comfortable doing. If we're always going to do, well, the right thing, we're already done. If you think you're going to be able to defeat the left in this country without ever being uncomfortable, you're wrong. You just simply are. It's a fantasy. It's time we wake up. Time we start playing to win. Now, speaking of waking up, you need to understand how important home title theft is. It is crushing families out there. Either it's tens of thousands of dollars in legal fees, it's people getting evicted, and it's a crime you can't do anything to prevent except get home title lock. They can't catch it beforehand. The hackers are too good, too fast. They hack in, forge your signature on your home title, take it to a lending institution, take out a loan, and they're gone. They're in the wind. This is all electronically. You're the one stuck with late notices in the mail. You're the one stuck unraveling it, and you don't have anything to protect you except for home title lock. Go. Take this seriously. Go to HomeTitleLock.com and sign up. Use the code RADIO that gets you 30 free days of protection. HomeTitleLock.com. We'll be back. Joining me now, former assemblyman in California and current vice president of national initiatives for the Texas Public Policy Foundation. I can't believe I got all that out in one shot. Chuck DeVore. Chuck, why do you weirdos in California call it an assemblyman? Why aren't you just like a state rep or something like that?
Well, there's about 6 or 7 states, I think, across the country where they call it an assembly. But it really makes for interesting constituent calls. One time a constituent called, she had just gone to IKEA and she had looked us up in the yellow pages and asked my staff how much it would cost for me to come over and assemble her new cabinet. And my staff had to explain to her that, ma'am, he's an assemblyman. And she said, I know, that's why I'm calling. and then they said, no, ma'am, you don't understand. He works in Sacramento. He votes on laws. And her exact reply before she hung up was, well, what good is he?
You know what, Chuck? If you actually cared about constituent services, you would have just went over anyway and helped that lady out. But that's another matter.
I would have, but I was up in Sacramento, and she needed it done right away. So, oh well.
I understand. Chuck, I have an extremely pessimistic view about where we are headed because of the coronavirus lockdown stuff. I just see this gigantic bubble coming. I'm in an empty office building as we speak right now. There are so many empty office buildings. There's no way commercial real estate can hold up. Everyone knows that gets down to the banks. We're talking about landlords. They passed another stimulus bill, delaying the people, kicking people out of their places when a landlord has to make money too. How are we not going to have a financial just drop from all this?
I think you're onto something here. There's a high probability that we will. Perhaps the only saving grace is that now that it looks like we may have a new administration, you may start to see some of the media and some of the medical professionals that were in the tank for the other side, all the Never Trump crowd, they may start to understand that they're going to kill the incoming administration if they don't let the boot up a little bit.
Chuck, what is the right answer when it comes to something? Let's set coronavirus aside. Obviously, that's kind of what we're referencing. But let's say that 10 years from now, there is another nasty bug out there, a lot nastier than coronavirus. There's something nasty. When I hear government tell me, go home, shut your business down, initially, right off the bat, I said, no, I don't think we should. That's a terrible idea. Is that right, though? Am I wrong? What if it is a nasty virus? What if we should go home? Am I the bad guy?
It seems to me that there was a lot of misinformation that was put out at the very beginning by both the People's Republic of China and by a lot of people who frankly wanted to shut down the record-breaking economy under President Donald Trump. Ask yourself this counterfactual. That's a fancy way of saying, you know, a scenario that didn't really happen. Imagine if Hillary Clinton had won the 2016 race and that the economy was doing, okay, and the same exact thing happened. Do you suppose that the media, do you suppose that the professional class would have encouraged lockdowns to destroy the economy just in front of the 2020 election? I don't think so. I don't think that would have been the case. It seems to me that what we need to look at is exactly how deadly is this virus? And to answer your question, you know, if something did come up in the future, how deadly is whatever the future virus is, whether it's a natural or perhaps one made in a laboratory outside of Beijing or something. Let's look at, for example, the Spanish flu 101 years ago. On a per capita basis, that killed about 6.8 times as many people so far as what COVID has done. About 675,000 people were killed with a population of only 102 million people back in 1918, 1919. So people wore masks back then. A few things were shut down. There were some schools shut down. But I was just looking up the Rose Bowl. The Rose Bowl was still played on January 1st, 1919, in the middle of the Spanish flu pandemic. 25,000 people attended that game to watch the Great Lakes Navy Blue Jackets defeat the Mare Island Marines, blanking them out 17-0.
How do you remember all this information? What is wrong with you? Every time we talk, you drop some piece of knowledge out there. Do you have some kind of photographic memory or something? I don't remember what I had for breakfast.
I work really hard at sounding impressive for just a few moments when I come on your show.
Well, mission accomplished, Chuck. Mission accomplished. So, look, is that all that changed? It was a Trump thing? Look, I'm not denying the existence of the virus. That's not what I'm saying. But, okay, we got it. So, from the very beginning, did they at least wait a week before they realized this was something they could use to take Trump down and make him a one-term president? When did the transition happen?
Well, a lot of what happened, I think, doesn't necessarily have to have any particular conspiracy. It's just people acting the way they're going to act, because in the case of the corporate media, virtually all of it hated Trump. They were all in the orange man bad faction. And so anything that they could do to make the president look bad, they were going to do. They didn't have to have meetings and discuss it. It's just the way it works. And then insofar as China, whether it was through a combination of malfeasance and misinformation and, bureaucratic incompetence, we don't know. But what we do know is that they were shutting things down in China while they were telling the rest of the world that everything was fine. Make sure you keep flights open to China. Everything's wonderful. And they were spreading the virus all over the world. And so, again, it's hard to really, in the absence of a whistleblower or some defector that comes out and has information that proves what happened in China, this is just one bad thing after another, leading to, I think, significant economic and liberty dislocation way beyond what was necessary. I mean, here is, to me, the proof of the pudding. Look at the largest state, California, and the third most populous state, Florida, and you look at the completely different responses that the two governors have done. Governor Gavin Newsom in California, who's now under the threat of a recall, right, and Governor DeSantis in Florida. And what you find is the media was highly critical of Florida all along for their more hands-off approach. And whenever you had any sort of rise in deaths in Florida, they're all like, look, see, we told you, DeSantis is killing people. And then you look at California, they have pulled out all the stops. They're shutting everything down. For God's sakes, they're losing the Rose Bowl to Texas. I mean, if that doesn't cause the recall of Gavin Newsom, I don't know what will. And yet, the amount of people who have COVID and the people who are dying from COVID are now higher, far higher in California than they are in Florida. It's as if these measures don't do anything. It seems like they don't do anything. I mean, let's focus on the vulnerable people. Let's focus on those that have comorbidities. Let's focus on those individuals who are in rest homes and use some common sense and stop allowing the government to completely destroy small businesses and property owners and wipe out people's savings. I mean, where does this lead? I think you're onto something in the sense that how much longer can we hold on before the entire U.S. economy simply goes off a cliff?
Well, how much longer, Chuck? I mean, I look at what's happened. Honestly, I flew over Thanksgiving. I know I wasn't supposed to, but I flew to go see my family over Thanksgiving. And I'll tell you, man, it was sad. Walking through the airport, it was sad. I flew through 2 or 3 major airports, and they're ghost towns. They have all those airport restaurants, I mean, owned by real people. Where real people work there, gone, boarded up. All these shops, even the center shop as you walk down the aisle where they sell the little trinkets, all wrapped up in plastic. What are these people doing for a living? There's no way we can go on like this.
No, there isn't. And again, I think at this point, you talk about the counterfactual of what would have happened had Hillary Clinton been elected in 2016. Well, that didn't happen, right? So the economy is already being throttled. Now you have what is likely going to be a new administration coming in. And then what happens, right? It seems to me we're already far down that path. And so the natural inclination of the new people in charge is going to be to augment, to enhance the power of government. And so I don't see any really good short-term scenario coming out of this.
Chuck DeVore, thank you, my friend. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Wouldn't you like to save money? Don't you like to save money? I do. I like to save money. I try the best I can not to be the coupon clipper in the grocery store, but I love saving money. And I do things like telehealth. I do things like staying in hotels, various shopping. You doing any of that right now? What if you could do this? What if you could save money while also funding candidates running for office who believe what you believe? It exists, you know that? It's called Mammoth Nation. And for $19 a year, $19 a year, you can become a member. And you get all these discounts. And where does your money go? Your money goes to people who believe what you and I believe and who will fight for us. That's the truth. Go to mammothnation.com/Jesse. That's mammothnation.com/Jesse and sign up today. Joining me now, host of This Is My Show with Drew Berkowitz. Drew, I know you're going to be stunned by this, absolutely stunned, but we have yet another person who's told you and me to go home, hide under your bed, wear a mask, don't gather with family. Busted, gathering with family. This time it was the infamous Dr. BIRX, who's been on TV for close to a year telling everyone we're all going to die. Just got busted with 3 generations of family at one of her vacation homes. Why can't we just accept? Why is it controversial, Drew, to just say these people aren't worried about coronavirus?
It shouldn't be. That's for darn sure, because you're right. I mean, all of them do it. Each and every one of them have been caught, it seems like, that have gone out there and done. And in her defense, she always wears those scarves, so she's got like extra layers of defense. She's got a mask, she's got scarves. But yeah, I mean, and here's I'm not mad at these people for doing it. It's just, to your point, goes to show you're not really that concerned. You're peddling this fear for a number of reasons, whatever they might be. We've all got our suspicions of what they are, but we should all be allowed to go and do that. Everyone should be allowed to go about their lives. But when you go and you do this and you say, just like we've seen the Rhode Island governor and so many other governors come out and say, you can't do this, but I'm going to do it because I'm the governor. And I really don't care about this virus, and nor should you.
Drew, you know what? We need some good news today. What's a Drew Berkowitz family tradition for Christmas time? Do you guys do something special? Do you travel? Do you not do gifts? Do you do one gift? Do you sing Christmas carols? I bet you suck at those. What do you do for Christmas?
I do. I kind of want to go caroling this year, just because it would be funny, because it would suck. My wife's really good at singing, but it would be good just to give some people some humor. We'll film it. We'll put it online. Maybe we'll do that. But no, we keep it pretty simple. We're we got to get Christmas Vacation in. Of course, Die Hard goes first. That's the most important Christmas movie.
Yeah.
It should be for all of you.
For the kids.
Thinking about the Takagi family right now at this time of year, as we do every year. But no, we watch movies. We try to just settle down, have some fun food, hang out. We try to tone down the gifts each and every year. Sometimes we're better at it than others. But we sit around as a family, open gifts in the morning. The grandparents come over, and then we get together, the whole Berquist clan, in the evening, and chaos ensues. But it's fun.
Drew, when does all the madness end? As far as the election stuff go, does this end when Biden is actually sworn in? Is this something the right is going to let go? Because I don't think we are. And not that I'm saying they deserve us to let it go. Whether it was all fraud or not, I think they deserve 4 years after what they did. But does it just go away once Biden's sworn in? Do people shrug their shoulders and let it go?
I don't know. I'd like to think that there's less of a chance of that happening now than there ever has been before. Because people do seem to be really fed up. But we have a track record of just being the nice guy and letting the other side win and saying, oh, well, that sucks. Like we tried our best. We threw out some angry tweets on Twitter. We sent a letter or left a voicemail for our representative. And if it didn't happen, it's not going to happen. So let's just move on. So I ultimately, I do think that the worst case scenario is obviously something that none of us want, but ultimately speaking, I don't think we get to that because we tend to be pacifists when it comes to this. We talk a tough game and then we let the Democrats run over us. And I think that sadly, that's probably what we're going to see again, just because history.
Drew, AG BARR came out today and announced that he's not going to appoint a special counsel for the Hunter Biden stuff. He's seen no political bias whatsoever in the investigation so far, and he's not appointing a special counsel. I have half the people on the right that say this is wonderful news. He's doing the right thing. I personally, because I'm a bad person, think this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. We always do the right thing after they just had their special counsel for 2 years. If we never make them eat it, then how are they ever going to change? Or am I wrong?
No, you're 100% right. I mean, and your tweet about that, and I know that you're right, but your tweet about that was spot on because we don't play by the same rules. And until it's like being overseas. It was really, really frustrating. I talked about this on my show the other day, being overseas, seeing the enemy and the tactics that they use. They follow no rules, but then being told, hey, you have to defeat them, but you can't do any of this other stuff. You can't, you've got to stay with this one page of paper that has the rules on it. You have to abide by all those, which makes it darn near impossible to do. And it's the same thing here. If we continue to sit back, just go so far and then hope that everything changes and goes our way, we're sorely mistaken. It's not going to do that. They don't care about the rules. They don't care about the American people. I'd argue they don't really care about America as a whole. And until we get that and start playing nasty, which no one likes to talk about, especially at Christmas, like we're going to get coal in our stockings. But you know what? We got to fight for this country. And now is the time that we should not be saying, well, let's hope for the best. No, it's time to play by their rules. And so I totally agree with you. Appoint a special counsel. Do everything they've done to us, because you know what? They already throw bad things at us. They already throw insults, claim that we're this, that, and the other. So what's the difference? Like, let's just do it. Now let's just do it and earn it because we're going to get called it no matter what.
Drew, what should we make of AG BARR? The reports are all over. I know we just talked about this particular thing, but I don't want to be that guy that says, oh, he's done nothing. So I'm sure, we've had some great, hunting down child predators and things like that. That's been awesome, human trafficking stuff. But what's he done?
He like so many other of these officials have confused us. Like it's gotten to the point where I don't exactly know what to make of him because I've stood by, none of these people are going to make every decision right, and especially these days with everyone getting so easily triggered, and I hate that word, but I'm going to use it, like so easily triggered by like them not doing exactly what they want the AG to do or the president to do or this person or that person to do. So those people go a little bit too far off the cliff with that stuff. But I think that he's done some good things. I think to your point there, with the child trafficking stuff, there's definitely been movement there. He has pushed on some of these other cases. How hard he's pushing behind the scenes, none of us really know. I've loved seeing him push back against some of the mainstream media hacks, whether it was Wolf Blitzer, these other people, whether it was him at the hearing making snarky responses. I just appreciate sarcasm and snark. So I think he's done a good job of pushing back on that. But then again, behind the scenes, how hard is he really pushing? Because none of this stuff has really gone far enough. And then certainly at the end here, when he's on his way out, I don't expect him to put his name and everything on the line when I don't think he's probably leaving on the best of terms. So I don't really know. To answer your question, I don't really know. I think he did some good things. I don't think he was just a total waste. And everyone who's saying, "Oh, I'm so glad he's gone. He was awful." Well, no, some of you were saying he was great just weeks ago. So it's hard to make out how good he was as an AG. He's certainly better than some of the other ones we've had, but he's starting to look more and more like just a swamp creature, like so many other people up there.
What age were your kids when you told them about Santa, that he didn't exist anymore? Or have you? Or are you still carrying on the vicious lie?
No. I guess they were probably, it was probably 2 years ago. So maybe like 8 was our oldest. So we kind of broke it to them a little bit earlier. I've got nieces and nephews who still believe that are older than that. So, I mean, look, it's all over the place, but we broke it down a little bit earlier just to end the confusion. Make sure that they could focus on what the season's really about, and not be confused when then people have, questions and issues about that too. So we did it a little bit earlier. Our youngest was probably, 3 or so, 3 or 4, but that poor one, it got ruined early. So
Brothers are
judge
the
me
worst.
if you will.
We did ours. I'll never forget. We did ours at 8 and 6. Our kids were 8 and 6 years old. Sat them down, told them that Santa didn't exist. Just leveled with them, and told them, just gave it to them straight up. That's not the reason for the season. Santa's not. I just didn't want to feel like lying. I'll never forget this as long as I live. They didn't believe me. They just went right back for another year or two to get right back to believing. Oh, look what Santa brought. I said, we just had this talk. They just don't believe me.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. Well, maybe you just need to be like, look, we accidentally ran over him at the grocery store parking lot. He's no longer with us. We feel awful about it, but we get the credit. I mean, that's the thing, too. Beyond it actually mattering and what the season's really about, which everyone should focus on, the reality is the kids get older, you give better and more expensive gifts because better stuff just costs more. It's like, hold up. We're giving credit to a large white male who's allegedly broken into our home. Credit for this amazing gift, and we get nothing.
Pretty much.
Just
all right, Drew. I have to ask. When are we getting out of Afghanistan? I know it's not going to be soon. I know, especially now that Biden's there, it's not going to be soon. But do you see, is it 10 years? Surely, I know that sounds ridiculous because we've been there 20, but tell me what's going to change in the next 10 that's going to pull us out.
Well, nothing's going to change. Nothing's going to change with what's going on over there in general. And probably not much is going to change with our policy. If we're going to stay there, which I think to your point, we probably are, obviously Trump has done his best to try and get everyone out of there. There is some argument to keeping a smaller footprint. I see both sides of that coin. But if it's going to stay the way it is now, I think it's absurd. If we could reduce it down to something where there's a smaller footprint of Bagram and we're doing smaller operations in the region just to ensure the bad guys are taking the dirt nap from there, then I would be okay with that. But I like you said, with Biden coming in, odds of us getting another president like Donald J. Trump are pretty small. So you're probably going to have someone who's much like a Bush, much like a Clinton, much like a Biden, much like all the same that we've seen. And there's benefits to us being there. There's benefits, that just really continue on and on and on. So I don't see it changing a whole lot. I see people of our children's generation still spending some time over there, probably there and Iraq and in the surrounding regions.
Wonderful. Drew Berquist, Merry Christmas, bud.
Merry Christmas to you.
All right. We'll be back. I'm a dude, so naturally I'm a high-level thinker. And as a high-level thinker, I've always had this obsession with watching things get blown up. Sit back and enjoy this.
Oh my gosh. Woo!
That was awesome. All right. I'll see you tomorrow.